information on that, but we're going to talk about a little background first. And there's one thing, there's a large misconception that the Federal Reserve Bank is actually a branch of the U.S. government, but it actually is not. In reality, the Federal Bank is actually a private company, which is really unique because on the Constitution of Article 1, in Section 8, it actually states that Congress shall have the power to create money and regulate the value. So this poses a good question, is that how is a private company is the main banking system for the United States? Well, this is from the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 created the Federal Reserve System as the main banking authority of the United States, and this was all signed by Woodrow Wilson, which he later openly admitted that, quote, "I have unwittingly ruined my country." Now, to talk about the structure of this, there's a 7-member board of governors that's in charge of this, and a federal agency that is the main governing body of the Federal Reserve System. Now, this oversees 12 Federal Reserve banks, and it sets the national monetary policy. And so with these 12 Federal Reserve banks, this actually divides the nation into 12 Federal Reserve districts, which is then responsible for regulation of the commercial banks within its districts. So one main point of this is that the Federal Reserve System has both private and public components, and this actually can make decisions without the permission of Congress and of the President of the United States. It's a pretty big deal. Now, there's our further functions of the Federal Reserve that's actually more interesting too, that it keeps American financial system stable. But how stable do you think it actually really is now? Me, honestly, I don't think it is. Now, it also provides financial services for the U.S. government, financial institutions, public and foreign financial institutions as well. And this is a little region for the geographic boundaries of all the 12 districts. It's divided in each section of the United States, and how and as for us, we're District 11, which takes all of Texas, part of New Mexico, part of Louisiana. And it's pretty interesting to see how each district takes over each parts of the United States. Now, the central bank is part of the reserve system, which actually controls interest rates and money supply. It also loans money to government, economy at interest. And through increasing and decreasing supply of money, it regulates the value of the currency. That's a really big deal that pretty much makes them really in control of almost everything. Now, every dollar produced and loaned is at interest, so the central bank has the monopoly over the production of currency of the entire country. That's the whole United States. That's really, it amazes me still. Now, so they loan each dollar with an interest, which is always right after debt, attached to it. So where does the money to pay all that debt come from? Well, this means that the central bank has to continue increasing money supply. And it's going to keep rising. And this also here shows that when the Federal Reserve Act was created in 1913, it actually shows that at that time, before it started, the dollar was actually worth $1. Now, throughout all those years until now, 2008, it actually only worth 5%, which means that the actual dollar now lost 95% of its value. That's a big deal. And here are some quotes from some presidents exactly saying all these things that had brought a good point. Thomas Jefferson, the next president, told us that if the American people ever allow private banks to control the issuance of their currencies, first by inflation and then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all their prosperity until their children will wake up homeless on a continent their fathers conquered. And President Woodrow Wilson also portrayed that he overall says that he really admitted that he did wrong by signing the Federal Reserve Act. Now, what's even more interesting that the executive order of 11110 signed by John F. Kennedy actually stripped the power of the Federal Reserve Bank to loan money to the United States. This was a big deal because it took away the interest ability. So the United States notes was issued as an interest-free and debt-free currency backed by silver reserves in the U.S. Treasury. But what happened as soon as it passed? He got assassinated. And so after that, the U.S. notes was taken out of circulation and it was never dealt with again. It's pretty amazing how after he signed it, now it's not no more after his passing. So now who owns the Federal Reserve? The Federal Central Bank? There's actually a few banks around the country, including the Chase Manhattan Bank of New York. You got the Lehman Brothers of New York, and a few other banks that are part of this. But who runs the federal bank? This is a 7-member board of governors oversee the system. They actually control operation of 12 federal banks, consumer advisory committees, and thousands of members across the United States. Now, these governors are actually appointed by the president, which are then confirmed by the Senate, and then they actually serve a staggering 14-year term. That's a long time. And now the chairman and the vice chairman of the board of the governors are appointed by the president. They both serve a 4-year term, and their renomination is actually unlimited times. And these are actually some of the board members of the Federal Reserve System. Let's see who they are. Very interesting. Any questions? Good. Awesome. Thank you.